Welcome back to the MOC course on Corporate Social Responsibility. My name is Aradhana Malik and I'm helping you with this course. And in the previous class, we were talking about stakeholders, and we talked about what stakeholders, what the stakeholder approach is. Now, in this particular lecture, we will discuss how stakeholders and CSR are related. What is the connection between stakeholders and corporate social responsibility? Okay. Stakeholders and CSR. This is from a seminal paper by Clarkson in 1995. I'll give you all these references. I'll give you everything, alongside your slides. You will have access to all this information. Okay. Stakeholder issues versus social issues. It's very important to understand how stakeholders and how these two issues differ. We were talking about drawing boundaries around stakeholders. It's not about the whole society in general. It is about demarcating the boundary between stakeholder and social issues. Okay, so it is the identification of boundaries between stakeholders and the society in general. It is necessary to distinguish between stakeholder issues and social issues, because corporations and their managers manage relationships with their stakeholders and not with everybody in the world, not with the society. It is with those people who are being affected, those entities that are being affected by the organization. That's quite a large part of the society in general, but one can't satisfy everybody. So that is where CSR comes in. Who is the organization responsible to? We talk about corporate social responsibility. Is a computer manufacturing company responsible to the stray dogs and cats on the road? Maybe, maybe not. I don't know. I don't want to hurt anyone's feelings. I do not want the SPCA, the Society for Prevention of Cruelty to Animals, coming after me. That is not the intention here. But is it the responsibility of this organization to look after the welfare of these stray dogs and cats on the road? I don't know. Maybe a pet food manufacturing company can do a better job of looking after the stray animals on the road. Maybe they can help out. But that expectation should not be here. So, and again, it's not the expectation of the society. It's also what the company thinks it should do. Some lines have to be drawn. Okay. It is necessary to conduct analysis at the appropriate level, institutional, organizational, or individual. It is absolutely essential to understand what the stakeholder issues are at the institutional level. We've talked about this earlier, at the level of the organization and at the level of individual workers of the organization. Analysis and evaluation of both the social performance of a corporation and the performance of its managers in managing the corporation's responsibilities to and responsibilities with its stakeholders. So, the social responsibilities, where does one draw the line? The primary responsibility of any profit-making organization is to make money. They need to make money to stay in business. We will talk about corporate social performance and financial performance. I told you we'll have a discussion on that. Where does one draw the line? How much do we give? Why do we give that much? And for what cause? What will it help us establish? Is there some way of overlapping these things? One doesn't know. Individual organizations are struggling with this. Where do we draw the line between fulfilling our fiduciary responsibilities to our stakeholders? Fiduciary means related to the money aspect, the financial responsibilities, and our responsibilities to the society in general. And those lines need to be drawn very, very clearly. So, these things need to be analyzed, they need to be evaluated, and then an understanding needs to come out. Okay. Now, Clarkson has given us a very nice, very comprehensive list of typical corporate and stakeholder issues. So, as far as the company is concerned, the issues that the company faces or the issues related to the company are company history, industry background, organization structure, economic performance, competitive environment, mission or purpose, corporate codes, stakeholder and social issues management systems. The systems that are employed for the management of stakeholder and social issues. Typical corporate and stakeholder issues at the level of the employees: general policy, benefits, compensation and rewards, training and development, career planning, employee assistance program, health promotion, absenteeism and turnover, leaves of absence, relationships with unions, dismissal and appeal, termination, layoff and redundancy, retirement and termination counseling, employment equity and discrimination, women in management and on the board, daycare and family accommodation, employee communication, occupational health and safety, part-time, temporary or contract employees, other employee or human resource issues. So various issues. Again, this list is not exhaustive, but it is very, very comprehensive. It takes into account a lot of different issues that concern the organization, and you can see the scale at which the organization is dealing with these issues. Massive. Every organization has to deal with most of these issues, if not all these issues. At the level of the shareholders, the issues are general policy of the company, shareholder communications and complaints. What do you tell the shareholders about the money they have invested? What if they have complaints? How do you handle those complaints? Shareholder advocacy, shareholder rights, other shareholder issues. So various things that the company has to deal with. These are the issues that need to be focused on by the organization. Customers, general policy for customers, customer communications, how do you inform the customer about your product or service? One very significant thing that I have noticed these days is when you go to buy and implement. You know, in the earlier days when so many choices were not there, these instruction manuals used to be model specific. These days they are not model specific. There's one instruction manual, it has everything. So the photograph in the instruction manual doesn't match your equipment. And that is sad, but nobody is questioning it. Why? Because the answer to every problem is available through Baba Google Dev. I mean Google. So nobody is questioning it. So it's the information that is being given to the customer. Now legally it is probably well within the legal requirements. But from the user's perspective, for a lot of things I've seen that the information is not model specific. And the photograph doesn't match, but it's okay. It's all right. So various things. So, you know, what do you tell your customers? Which phone number do you give them? If you have a complaint, please call up this number. I had a recent experience with some with some e-commerce company. They had listed their email address and phone number. I sent them 2 or 3 emails about something I was concerned about. They did not respond. So I called them up and the answering machine answered, and even though I was well within the time that had been listed, there was nothing. So I left a message, and the next thing I knew, 2 days later, the phone number had been removed from the website of the organization. Now, what information is the customer getting? You give the customer some information that it's not so easy to do that in through print information, but online, click of a button, the required information is gone. You keep sending emails, they will respond to you in due course of time. So again, you know, these are some of the issues, and of course, you know, if we started listing all the complaints we've had with e-commerce companies, I'm sure the list would flood the forum. But this is something that the company has to manage. Many times the complaints may be genuine, sometimes the complaints may not be genuine, and we still have to respond. Let's take the example of this course, the forum. As your teacher, I am obligated to respond to every query that has been posted on the forum. I am obligated to read and mark every query as having been read and responded to. It's my personal responsibility, and this is at a very small scale. So all the teachers are doing it for all of their students. Just imagine what a manufacturer has to deal with, and all of these things come in stakeholder issues. Okay, product safety, customer complaints, you know, how do you ensure product safety? Batteries, cell phone batteries exploding, we've heard about that. Power banks exploding, we've heard about that. So, how do you ensure batteries, regular cells, dry cells exploding? So, how do you ensure all this? So, customer complaints, how do you handle complaints of customers? Special customer services, you have customers that need special assistance, especially in the service industry. There need to be special services for customers to cater to the special needs of the customers, the elderly, the differently abled customers. So, how do you cater to those? And all of those things also need to be managed by the company. Other customer issues. So, that is the scale at which the organization is dealing with things. Suppliers, general policy, relative power of the suppliers over the organization, other supplier issues. Public stakeholders, this is where CSR comes in. Corporate social responsibility, public health, safety and protection, conservation of energy and materials, environmental assessment of capital projects, other environmental issues, public policy involvement, community relations. IIT Kharagpur, big, huge organization in a town called Kharagpur. There is a world outside the walls of our organization also. And routinely, we make sure that we keep the needs of our community in mind. Even though there is a boundary, our students go through the national service scheme and serve the villages around the IIT area. That is one way of building community relationships. People know IIT for the good work it does. 2,000 students, sorry, 1 to 2,000. 1 to 2,000 students, I don't know the exact number, I'm sorry, but 1 to 2,000 students are involved in the NSS effort. They go out every week and they go and serve the villagers every weekend. So, that is one way of building community relationships. Yes, we are there, we are big, we are huge, we have a wall. You need to drive around this big wall. You could have taken a shortcut, but you cannot drive through the campus. But because we have so many resources, we have so many hands, we are sending our staff to you to find out how we can help you. Okay, so that's one way. So, relationships with the community. Okay, social investment and donations. Investing your time, money, energy, resources and physical donations to the community. You have an old clothes collection drive, you have an extra medicine drive. If you have medicines that you're not using, that are not expired, please donate them, something like that, so they can be used for the poor. So, that kind of thing. So, or it's not only about the disadvantaged sections of the society, it's also about helping the society. It's also about doing something, maybe having some kind of a partnership with the community outside your campus walls. So, so social investment, we invest in the activities of the community and we donate as far as possible. Okay. Now, difference between stakeholder and social issues is that social issues are developed over, they become issues after a period of time, and they could be at the level of the municipality, the state or national level. And social issues are those issues that require the enactment of legislations or regulations developed over a period of time by a particular society. That is what Clarkson says. Now, in developing countries, this may not really hold good. But companies, when we talk about their CSR efforts, their first step towards CSR efforts is to ensure legal compliance. What does the government want us to do? In doing so, they also satisfy the normative requirements of the company. We are a good company. We are doing what the organization expects us to do. We are doing what the government wants us to do, needs us to do, legislates that we do, and we are also doing good for the society. So, they try and combine these three. Okay. Stakeholder issues, no such legislation or regulation, but the organization identifies it and considers it necessary. The list of stakeholders, yes, when we talk about the different kinds of issues, we identify all of these, we identify the stakeholders, we see what their issues is, are, maybe discrimination and all is written, but then company policy, it's a requirement. So we try and make it as good as possible, we or as easily understandable as possible, and we let the stakeholders feel that they have a say in the organization. So we give them that opportunity, and that is something that the company does on its own. Okay, groups of stakeholders, we have two main groups. Clarkson has identified two main groups of stakeholders, the primary stakeholders and the secondary stakeholders. Primary stakeholder group is one without whose continuing participation the corporation cannot survive as a growing concern. I'm sorry, this should be a growing concern. Okay. It is typically comprised of shareholders and investors, employees, customers and suppliers, together with what is identified as the public stakeholder group, the governments and communities that provide infrastructures and markets whose laws and regulations must be obeyed, and to whom taxes and other obligations must be due. So these are the primary stakeholders with which the organization has a high level of interdependence and cooperation. And these are the people who are directly affected by what the organization does. These are groups. The secondary stakeholder group is the group of those who influence or affect or are influenced or affected by the corporation, but they are not engaged in transactions with the corporation and are not essential for its survival. For example, media, special interest groups, etc. So these are the groups that are not really connected to the organization, but they are trying to influence or affect the organization. They may be opposed to the policies or programs that a corporation has adopted to fulfill its responsibilities or to satisfy the needs and expectations of its primary stakeholder groups. Now, these are the stakeholders who are trying to find out what the organization can do better. I will not use a negative term like, they're trying to interfere with the organization. They are trying to find out what the organization can do better in its efforts to serving the society, in its efforts to serving its stakeholders. So these are the secondary stakeholder groups, and I think that is all we have time for in this lecture. In the next class, we will talk about the different approaches of the stakeholder theory. We will talk about how the stakeholder theory is viewed in different contexts and how its connection with corporate social responsibility has evolved through the years and what is going on right now. So thank you very much for listening. I hope you're finding all this interesting. Please discuss your insights, your experiences with whatever we are discussing on the forum. That will be very, very helpful for your teammates, and it will enrich the course further. Thanks a lot for listening.